seen it all over. Rhone, Chablis, you know, like I don't know if Alsace I heard as well. So I don't know if ever we've had really that many Champagne. Everybody seems to be affected this time, which is, you know, usually you get like, you know, 1 or 2 regions that get it really badly and everybody else just kind of, you know, sort of scrapes by. But this year it seems like it was quite a widespread thing. So yeah, so it's not good news. I'll be only making gin from now.
Yeah. Although I still really want you to make a perfume. I told you that ages ago.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind, you know. I'm quite into that sort of stuff, but
it's got to be roses. It's got to be your scent because of rosé.
I'll have to be something spicy.
I wear Jo Malone roses, but it's got stronger. It's so strong now. Like if you spray it on anything, you just stink of roses for about a week. So I can't use it. I need a nice light. Maybe I should have a bit of Pure. I'll put a bit of Pure behind my ears.
So we have 44 people, 45. Do you want to make a start or give it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, let me let everyone in, and then Jeany, you'll do a little introduction.
I will, totally.
Perfect. Okay. Sophie, do you want to go on mute before I let anyone in?
Yeah.
And I will. What I'll do is I'll do the same. So I'll pin both of you, so you guys are the key people.
No, you need to come
do it now, actually. Spotlight for everyone, and add spotlight. So Sophie, can you just confirm that you can just see Jeany and Helen? Perfect. Thank you. Good luck, ladies.
Bye. Oh, look.
Hello. Are there people?
You can put your camera on if you want to.
I want to see yourself on screen.
I'm unmuted. Great. Helen, I think you can unmute yourself too.
Yeah, I'm good.
Hey, right. Shall we start?
Definitely. I'm so thirsty.
And great to see everyone here. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been it's just incredible that so many people have wanted to join me, and of course the reason why you're all really here, the legendary Helen McGinn, who is to me like the sort of fairy godmother of wine, because you just make it all seem so easy, so lovely, so unsnobby. I mean, something that, you know, we've sort of always tried to battle against a bit, the sort of wine snob and scary wine people. And you are just the complete opposite of that, and make people feel good and confident about wine. And I think that is just so lovely. And obviously people know you really well from TV, because you are on Saturday Kitchen and This Morning, and you know, whenever I can, I tune in. And you've written a brilliant book, which I own and love.
Oh, yeah.
So for anybody who wants to have a sort of a wine guide, a light wine guide, but that's really interesting and well informed, this is a great book. And then I think I want to just say that in true Wonder Woman style, you've sort of reinvented yourself again, and you're now a novelist. And so you've written a book called This Changes Everything, which was published, I think, in March, if I'm not completely
it's
wrong.
just
and I think that's just amazing.
Thank you so much. I'm so floored. I love that you say people are here for me. I'm here for the wine, Jeany.
There is wine. I hope everybody's got wine. On that note, I think Helen would agree that you must have a glass in your hand, and you should merrily swig along with whatever's in it. Preferably a bit of rosé, and maybe even more preferably ours. But you know, anyway, this is wine o'clock, and let's have some. So yeah, so I don't know, Helen, do you want to quickly say something about your book, just while we've got people?
You're really sweet. So I was a wine buyer for 10 years for a big supermarket. That was my wine background. So I did that for a long time, and then I wrote the Knackered Mother's Wine Guide really just to answer all the questions that all my friends have been asking me constantly for the 10 years when I was doing that job. And I wrote it mainly to stop them all calling me at about 4 o'clock in a panic from the wine aisle asking what they should buy. So I thought, if I just put it on a blog every week, a couple of wines, and then hopefully they'll go there instead. And so it just sort of mushroomed from there, really. And it's been extraordinary. You know, I sort of accidentally then ended up on the telly, which is great fun. I've carried on doing Saturday Kitchen and This Morning in lockdown from home. So I've, you know, had a shirt on here and my tracksuit bottoms on underneath, and nobody has to know. And that's been great fun. The only challenging thing is normally I'm in a really nice airy room looking out at the garden with a brick wall behind me, but the time of day at the moment, it's so chaotic in our house and it's full of children, with it being the holiday. So I'm hiding in essentially what is our bunker, which is the study. And it's the only quiet place in the house, but I have all my wine, so I couldn't be happier. I'm here because, so when Jeany said, will I come and do this? I said yes without thinking, because I've been a fan of what you've done with Mirabeau since your very, very early days. I mean, I remember your very early days, and it was such a brave, brilliant thing to do, you know, not just the moving to France, moving your entire family to France with an idea to create a wine brand. But over the years, I've seen your brand grow up and become this incredible family of wines. And what I really love is not only are you lovely, lovely people, but what's inside the bottle is that's what really matters to you. And it's, you know, you just don't get a bad bottle of Mirabeau. And that is a rare thing in the branded wine world, to find a brand like this, which just feels so real. So that's my love back to you.
Oh, thank you. That is so sweet. And I too do remember the early days, and it was completely bonkers, basically. I mean, I must say that most of our friends and family just thought we were, bona fide nuts, and thought we would just come back sort of whimpering a year later with our house money having halved. But yeah, I mean, that was actually one of the big reasons why we stuck it out, and in spite of some really, early setbacks too, was that we thought, bloody hell, we can't come home. Everyone's just gonna laugh their heads off, and the house market will have doubled. So we had a really good incentive and strong incentive to actually keep going, apart from the fact that, after a very brief time, we fell madly in love with the place where we live, which is Provence, so right down south of France, and the sort of, I guess the sort of the life of endless fresh fruit and veg, and being able to buy stuff at the market, and also, I guess, being sort of, slightly out of the rat race is not really the right kind of phrase, because we've never worked this hard, so we haven't really gotten out of the rat race.
Yeah.
But it's quite nice to be sort of, to be somebody nobody knows, and you can just sort of walk down the street in your joggers, a bit COVID style. And it doesn't really matter. So no, we've just really, really, really enjoyed living here in those years. And we've tried to always, like you say, we've grafted hard to make sure that the roses are always great, and that we have, we've got these, we obviously, as you know, we work with growers, we've got these really great relationships with people. And we also think that is in some ways, really nice and symbiotic, because, in farming is a particular skill. We didn't really have it much. I mean, we're now farmers. I will tell you about that a little bit later, because we finally became farmers a few years ago, when we could finally afford to become farmers, because it's very expensive in Provence. But it is these people have been farming for generations, and they're really good at it, and we were good, I think, better at the winemaking, at the marketing, at the making sure that the logistics work. Even though I apologize also just on that note, because I've heard that a lot of people haven't been able to get hold of the wines. We have had some issues thanks to Brexit.
Yes,
COVID.
I've had so many messages today from people sending me snapshots of empty shelves. So, but if you did find some Mirabeau, then good on you. But as Jeany said, it doesn't matter what's in your glass, as long as you've got something lovely in your glass, then we can drink and talk rosé. But I'm very lucky because I'm definitely going to have Mirabeau in my glass. So, Jeany, should we start with the first?
Fantastic. Let's hold on. I've actually got a waiter.
Oh, he's terribly good, isn't he?
Well, you haven't seen me pour yet.
Right.
So
Here's my glass. Pour in it.
I was starting with Bellany.
We're
starting with Bellany.
We're going to start with Bellany. So
which has just launched in Tesco. Sorry, just sneakily get that in there.
Yes, this has just launched in Tesco. So remind me, how much is this one in Tesco? I want to say it is
10.
£10. I was going to say £10. And you see, this is the thing. When you first launched Mirabeau, and this is going to date me, but I mean, it used to be, as Provence has got a little bit more expensive over the years, as everything else has, but to still get, you know, a good Provence, I mean, we'll move on to your Provence rosés, you know, they're still really well priced. That's the other great thing about this brand. So yeah, tell us a bit more about
this. Is the naughty little sister to the Provence range, because this actually comes from a little bit further afield. So this is not a Provence rosé, but we did feel that it was a kind of a neat idea to see what was made in the neighboring region, because there is some good winemaking going on, and we figured that if we buy the best, and if we apply our exacting sort of blending skills, that we could come up with something really nice that was a little bit more of an everyday wine. Yeah. Because as you said, Provence has gone up in price. I must tell you it is just, the whole region has become increasingly popular. And also, you know, there are some sort of just, you know, prices just go up for everything. It's crazy, you know, glass, you know, everything just becomes more expensive year on year, seemingly. So Bellany is really a really nice sort of fruity, fun wine that you don't need to think about too much. You know, it's at an approachable price. It's a really good food wine, and it's just, you know, just a lovely everyday tipple. That was sort of the idea.
And you've done it perfectly. It looks gorgeous. I'm just going to apologize for anyone watching. I'm going to make some revolting noises now when I do the sipping and spitting, but I have to have a good old swig to get the flavors everywhere. Don't feel you have to do the same, but if you do the same at home, can I just say, don't laugh whilst you do it, because you will end up with wine on your laptop. So what I do when I'm tasting now is I'll take a sip and then I'll suck a little bit of air in, because that moves the wine around my mouth, and it means all my taste buds get involved. If I don't have a big sip at the beginning, I don't get everything out of it. So that's what I'm doing, rather than just making weird noises. Anyway, I'll shut up. I'm not spitting, Jeany. That is delicious. Absolutely delicious. It's still got the really lovely light red fruit and the citrus kind of, you know, the zhuzh of citrus that you would get in a Provence rosé. So it's a similar style, and that's really what you've tried to do here, haven't you?
Yes. So I think it you know, the Provence roses have a bit more complexity, of course, and as you move up the price scale, you know, you'll find they're you know, they're sort of more layered and have more to them in terms of character. But this one is, you know, it really does what it says on the tin. You know, it's a great wine for, you know, also with a pizza or a spag bol. You know, you don't need to feel like it's got a screw cap, so you can just take it. You know, you can take it to the park.
Yeah. With a straw.
Yeah, you can do it in a bib actually in Waitrose too. So the bottle is in Tesco and the bib is in Waitrose, which is a bit odd that we.
Yes, I have seen the bag-in-box in Waitrose. I have bought the bag-in-box in Waitrose. It's really lovely, because the thing about this coming in a bag-in-box is that, and I bought it, last year, because once you open a bag-in-box, that the wine will stay fresh for about 3 to 4 weeks, if not. I mean, mine was going on for a bit longer, but only because I have a lot of wine in this house. Don't think it's not because I wasn't drinking. But So that is a really good tip, actually. If you love your rosé in the summer, this in bag-in-box is the kind of thing that if friends are suddenly turning up and you're in the garden, that's a really good solution. So, and it does stay fresh. I love that, Jeany. I think that's gorgeous.
Good.
Really,
I'm glad
really lovely.
I'm glad you do. I hope other people will too. So I'm fine. You know, obviously, we've never had a wine in Tesco, so it's quite nice for those people who don't have any of the other supermarkets near them to be, you know. So we're sort of in Sainsbury's, Tesco's, and Waitrose now. So can't miss us, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Shall we attack the next one?
We're going to attack Forever Summer. Talking of summer, we're nearly there. Forever Summer. That's the next one, isn't it? Oh, look, the winemaker's back.
It doesn't look great in the artificial light. It does.
What's
It
that,
doesn't bring
husbands?
the husbands and old birds. Yeah. So anyway, Forever Summer. There you
So
go.
this is this is south of France, isn't it?
It is. That's an IGP med. So that's a little bit further, you know, unbeknown. Well, this is all from Provence, actually. It's just an IGP just means it's a slightly wider region, and you can grow a few more grapes on a vine than you would in the Côte de Provence. And the Côte de Provence is very limited to how much you can yield from your vineyard. Whereas IGP, the rules are a bit more relaxed, which, to be fair, for a rosé wine at this price point, probably doesn't do it any harm. So it's a really nice fruity, lovely rosé. The difference with this one, I think you know, Helen, anyway, but in case anybody doesn't, this is completely vegan winemaking, because not all wines are indeed vegan. We're trying really hard to get the whole range to vegan winemaking. And Bellonay was actually, by the way, so just so that people know, Bellonay, we've managed that. And Forever Summer is vegan and a little bit lighter. So
So I was going to say, that's what I really love about this one. So it's 11%, which, I mean, generally speaking, Provence wines they're not heavy in alcohol by any means. You know, that's part of their beauty, is they're nice and light. But are they normally around 12.5, would you say?
12.5, 13. So,
yeah.
so
this is 11, which doesn't sound like a lot, but actually it does make quite a big difference when you know, if you're drinking it over a period of time. So it does feel like a lighter take. We didn't talk about actually what were the grapes in Bellonay. What were the grape varieties in Bellonay?
Bellonay is Grenache and Syrah. So classic, really classic combination for the south of France, I guess. You know, the big, I don't know if you want to explain that, but you know, the big red grapes of the south of France, really, that, you know, Stephen always says actually a rosé is just a red wine made like a white wine. And I always think that's actually quite a cool way to describe it.
Yeah. Well, the truth is, I mean, you know, down where you are, there were lots of red grapes planted, and rosé was made originally as your kind of answer to white wine, because to make rosé, you have to use red grapes because you've got to get the color from somewhere, and the color comes from the skins. So there will always be red grapes in rosé. You know, if you get a rosé and there's no red grapes in there, be very suspicious.
Worried.
So there's a kind of standard south of France or Provence cocktail, which is usually, your favorites would be Grenache is a big one, Syrah, Sanso. They're the kind of big three, aren't they?
Yeah, so we got a few sort of like Carignan, and actually Forever Summer is interesting because that's got Caladoc in it, which is one of the new hybrid grapes. And that it's actually Malbec Grenache.
Is it? I didn't know that.
And they are, you know, it's a nice grape, especially for this very hot climate here, because that's one of the things that, you know, having just had the world's second biggest frost this morning, you wouldn't believe in much climate change here, but it's definitely getting drier here.
So I don't know if anyone saw, but if you look online or in the newspaper today, there were some photographs of vineyards, particularly in France, but here too, where lots of growers, vine growers, they had to, you know, do things in the vineyards to keep the frost away. So like massive candles. In Bordeaux, they had helicopters flying overhead to try and move the air around, because all the vines are at like such a delicate stage at the moment. They've all got these tiny little buds on them. And if the frost gets to them now, that's it, game over, no grapes. So it was very bad in France last night and the night before, I think, wasn't it? And it'll take a while to kind of,
the night before, last night was really
before. So it takes a while for anyone to know how much it'll affect the harvest, but essentially it will probably mean that the total number of grapes grown will be down, will be less than your average year, because if there's a frost at this time of year. So it's just worth noting, because never think this just comes out of a tap. It really is from a grape on a vine, and we can do so much, but nature has the final word as ever. But I absolutely love this. It does taste lighter, it is a much kind of lighter, springier wine. I can't see the chat, but hopefully Natalie will flag up if there are any particular questions. But it'd be interesting to know if people have got the same sort of appeal for it. That's lovely. I love it.
Yeah, and that one's obviously in Sainsbury's alongside Etoile. But yeah, it's a really lovely, also a lovely food wine, because it is very friendly and food forward kind of style. So again, you could, going on the vegan theme, I thought it's lovely with a sort of sweet potato and coconut curry. I think it would work really well. Yeah. Or a tangine, maybe a vegetarian tangine. I don't know if you feel that would be a good pairing.
Oh no, that would be that would be fantastic. That's the other thing, is rosé is a brilliant food wine, and we sometimes forget about it, and we, whatever dish you've got, you think red or you think white, and if ever I'm not quite sure what's going to work with the dish, I go to rosé. Suddenly it's like, oh, of course, rosé, because with rosé you have the freshness of white, but you also have a bit more body and oomph of red, because rosé does have a bit of tannin in there, because it's been macerated with the skins to get the color. It does get that, that teeth coating compound that you have in red wine. Sorry, I use the word compound. I never normally use the word compound, but it just gives it a bit more oomph, and that very often with food is really important, and it just brings the flavors out so much better. So yeah, don't forget about it. But should we go on to your?
Yeah,
this was the first one you ever made, wasn't it?
So
that was this your first one?
Yeah. This is our 11th vintage now.
Stephen made the pilgrimage to Waitrose to say,
you really did just turn up, didn't you? You had a meeting and you went in with your little basket of wine.
Please buy this from me. And he said, why would I do that? And I said, I don't know, just do it. And he went, all right then.
My wife will beat you up.
I think I first met you just after that, and I think you were in shock that they said yes.
I still am. 11 years later.
They are a very canny buying team there, you see. They know what they're doing, and they could see, you were just doing all the right things, right place, right time. And until that point, actually, lots of us had drunk rosé. But normally Provence rosé was something we would have on holiday, not here. And the majority of rosé in the UK at that time was sweet-ish, and it wasn't. We didn't think Provence rosé, and that has changed totally in the last 10 years. And it's no coincidence that Mirabeau was on shelf to do that. So it is quite an amazing thing, right? Pure.
Yeah, I think one of the things, Helen, that people appreciate so much is that in Provence it's always dry. So that's because that's actually written in our laws, in our appellation laws. And if you've got an AOC wine from one of the 3 Provence appellations, you can always be sure it's going to be. They say less than 4 grams of sugar per liter, but actually ours are sort of 0.8. So a sugar-free wine, effectively, not alcohol-free, but sugar-free.
Yeah.
You get wines that have alcohol and sugar, which I think are the ones that give you a proper headache the next day. Classic is lovely, I think, because classic has this lots of fruit, layers of fruit, and that was always its personality. It was always this sort of, this mega joyous wine, a little bit of a fruit bomb, but without being sweet. And yet you have the sort of citrus and the freshness. And so it's been I think a crowd pleasing wine.
But there's a lot more going on in this one, particularly when you go from Forever Summer. So this one suddenly, when you were talking earlier about how Provence, you get more layers of flavor. I mean, there's a lot more going on here. You've got grapefruit, you've got red fruits, you've got a bit of strawberry. I mean, it's all there. And also what I love is because of that freshness, that acidity, the flavors just go on and on.
Yeah, it has great mouthfeel, hasn't it? Because that's what you want as well in a wine. I guess, one of the things I think that we do well is in terms of blending, to make sure that the wine has really good balance and that you've got a sort of beginning, a middle, and an end. And I think we all know that we've got, there's wines where you think, the beginning tastes really amazing, and then it suddenly sort of falls off a cliff, or then you've got others that just sort of are cloying and are lasting beyond, beyond being invited into your mouth, basically. So it's actually really, really difficult to get that right.
As ever, it's all about balance, isn't it? So you've got to have the balance in the wine, and the freshness on that really does this. So if you have a lot of fruit first and not that freshness, it's not going to work. But that has it all. It's good. I love this. I mean, I've been drinking this for years. This has fueled so many drinks in our garden over the years. It's embarrassing, frankly, but it is a lovely, lovely wine still now. I mean, it really is. And this is how much nowadays?
Fabulous.
But did you know the story? Our story is in the logo. Did we ever tell you this? So
you probably did.
Yeah,
several times, probably.
Tell me again. Tell us again.
Well, it was all my idea, wasn't it?
Feign interest.
No, it's all your idea. But it's based on the tree of life, and it's got a vine and 5 birds, and the 5 birds represent Jeany and myself and the 3 children. And the vine
I did know that, and I'd forgotten it. That is such a lovely thing.
Yeah,
trying to land on the vine.
And the vine. I haven't finished, Helen. You're going too early. And the vine represents us uprooting from London and putting down new roots here in the south of France. Now I finished. Now you can say good stuff.
That's lovely. That is. Did you have this label when you went to go and see Waitrose?
Yeah, I did.
Yes, we did.
You see, very good. It's really, really lovely. And I think that's the other real appeal of these wines, is that even if we're sitting in rainy, the rainy UK, if we've got a glass of this in front of us and you're looking at something like that, at least we can dream of being one day sitting in a lovely farmhouse in Provence. It's like a little passport in pink. It's lovely. I love this wine.
Which I think we've all needed a lot more of, right? So Rosé's been, obviously, as you well know, Helen, one of the big winners of our lockdown rose, because I think people have been, even more desperate than normal to say, I'm gonna go on a little journey down south, and
but also treating to something really nice, not just the same old thing, but a really nice glass of wine. So that's great. Right, I'm very excited about tasting the next one. Are we doing this one next?
Yeah. So we're pure.
So this, I remember when you launched this one. So this goes up another level in quality and what you're trying to achieve with this one. Have I got that right? So it's basically you try the Mirabeau Classic, and then with this one, you're trying to really bring out that kind of clean, crisp, pure Provence flavor in a wine.
Yeah, which is exactly why we called it that way. And because it just feels, it's got this sort of beautiful minerality, sort of salinity, this kind of also, but again, this very clean taste. And pure comes from higher elevation vineyards. And I feel that you can really taste that, because it feels drier, even though the sugar level is actually exactly the same, but the feeling in the mouth is of a drier wine. Yet you've got these beautiful layers of sort of, small berries, small red berries, and then citrus, and even some exotic fruit. I mean, lychee and passion fruit.
Yeah.
And it's a really, really gorgeous wine. I think it's for me, it's the perfect aperitif. You know, I don't really need to drink anything else.
So that I'm totally with you on the lychee and the passion fruit. And I should just say, because you talked then about the altitude of the wines, and I'll just try and explain this really quickly and not at all boringly. And if I do get boring, I can see the chat now, so tell me to shut up. But if you grow grapes a little higher up, because there's more chat about growing grapes at altitude. The reason that makes a difference is because if you go higher, you go cooler, essentially. And so what that means for the grapes is that they ripen over a kind of longer period, and that gets more concentration in them. So ultimately, the flavors will be more pure. So it makes perfect sense what you're saying, is you've gone up a bit to get those really pure flavors in the grapes. You know, when you think of any wine region, and the great wine regions in Burgundy, for example, the best vineyards are always on the slopes, and the kind of lovely, still lovely, but you know, more basic is down on the valley floor. But the higher you go, the kind of the more interesting really the flavors get. Thank you for saying I'm never boring, Nikki Downs. I love you. That's really lovely.
No, we've had the most lovely comments. So thank you. Thank you all so much for the lovely chats. We are able to see it, and really appreciate all your kind comments on the wines and well, on the subject, I guess. So yeah, so this is a lovely, you know, this works with food. I mean, I wouldn't pair it with something super heavy like a stew or something. I don't think it's gonna really shine. But, you know, this is sort of seafood's best friend, I guess. I mean, you know, sort of butterfly prawns.
Even something lightly spiced, Jeany, this could cope with, couldn't it?
Definitely could. Sushi, it would be just a great sort of, you know, a great partner too. So, but again, I think, you know, it's the versatility, isn't it? You can really, you know, I mean, we sort of, you know, it's a bit boring, but we really drink it with everything and almost any time of year. And I think that's changed a little bit as well, Helen. I don't know if you see it, but that, you know, rosé used to be really only for the barbecue and for you know, for the terrace and for the sunny day. And that's not really anymore that way.
No,
is it?
I think lockdown changed all that.
Yeah, sorry, when it's for the bedroom and yeah, no, it's
so
because
now
you guys are finally, I'm so jealous. We're all so jealous of you. I can't tell you. I mean, because we've just gone back into lockdown.
You're still in lockdown for what? And have you got another month?
At least a month, yeah. They sort of, here they do it by, you know, they slice it like a salami. So they tell you, oh, it's going to be for like that many weeks. And then they go, oh, it's going to be for another 2 weeks. So that people don't kind of go completely insane, you know, coming up to the next gate or whatever it is. But we're not, for the moment, you know, it just wasn't, vaccinations aren't really happening, and it was all a bit.
I think the levels of excitement here about being able to go and sit in a pub garden and drink a glass of wine or have a pint of beer are just, it's building. Everybody is, I think, so excited about just being able to sit somewhere on their sofa or in their garden doing it. So, but we're now on to your absolute star wine, which I love too, fittingly named Étoile. So what was your thinking behind this one?
Call me.
So a little fat bottle, which is gives away maybe a little bit about its more complex persona, I guess. Mm-hmm. And that it is, you know, it was in a way we conceived it to be drunk with food. So you absolutely don't have to. But it's a wine which has just more sort of complexity, more volume. It's really aromatic and lovely, and so it is just a great food wine. It's mainly Grenache, 90% Grenache.
What are the great? So it's mainly Grenache, okay. And I mean Grenache, it's such a lovely grape for rosé, isn't it? Because not only does it give you some good color, but it just gives really fabulous, like. Perky fruit is the best way I can describe it. You know, the fruit is really juicy.
Yeah, sort of, stone fruits, so peaches, and it's all the yellow fruits, and it's quite rich, isn't it?
That's exactly, it's all the yellow fruit. So I can get, the love that's got pear in it as well, this one for me, and yellow peach. It's, again, it's just another step up, and there's lots going on. And yeah, when you taste it, there is just more, there's just a bit more oomph to it. There's a bit more weight.
Yeah, and this one is doesn't really sort of fall off a cliff come September, because rosés are traditionally, and they're really meant to be drunk quite young, because then you've got more of that fruit and more of that freshness that people love so much. I would say it's probably been a bit overdone, because with the quality of wine that's coming out of Provence now, I think you can safely drink it for 2 years. And I hope people do. I mean, I hope people don't pour something like this down the drain because it's last vintage. But Etoile, actually, I think this one can keep going. I mean, the color doesn't stay as beautifully peachy, because you get more of the orange and of the yellow sort of tint in it as it ages. But and it changes character, but it doesn't mean it goes bad. It just becomes sort of more creamy. The fruit becomes a bit more, I mean, stewed is the wrong word because it sounds horrible, but it's not horrible. It just oxidizes a little bit and becomes a bit richer still. And actually this one, I mean, we quite often, certainly we're still very happily drinking last vintage, and even the one before tastes still really nice. So it's wine that's a bit happy to last.
So now this one is £15 from Sainsbury's. And I mean, I have tasted this in the past, when I did a tasting of a lineup of rosés at around that price. And I can tell you, I would rather drink this than a cheap Sancerre rosé at a similar price. I think you get a much better wine value for money with this than you do if you go to some of those smarter rosé regions, So it's not cheap, but I think it's absolutely worth it, and you get a really beautiful, well-made wine.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and you'd probably not sort of, you'd not glug it either, right? It's a wine that you would sort of sip a bit more and take a bit more time. And I think it's a lovely sort of, that whole sort of slow living idea. It's a nice wine for that. If you want to take a glass and a good book, and just preferably one of yours, of course.
You are kind. Yes, I might just wave that one around. I happen to have one.
I want to know more about that. Actually, I want to know what it's all about, and love and wine, such a great combination, of course.
Well, do you know, because funny enough, we were talking about this before, saying that actually, pouring yourself a really lovely glass of wine has become, that is our form of escape at a time when we can't go anywhere or do anything, so I really have tried to mix it up and try things I hadn't tried before, and use it as a chance to do that. And a bit like what I've been reading, I haven't wanted to read anything sad or scary, or I used to read there's enough bad news without reading about it. So I have been reading real escapist books, and then I did write one which I started about 4 years ago, and that's the one that came out in February, and it was just a total escape. But obviously when I wrote it, I didn't realize we were going to be in this situation where we can't go anywhere. So it has been lovely, the feedback that I've had, that people have said it's really helped them to just not be here for a bit and it's set in Rome and Cornwall, and be there. And there is a lot of wine in it, just so it's called This Changes Everything. There is a lot of wine, but I was talking to Jeany the other day, because this one is set in Rome, and I've written a second one which is set in Venice, and for the next one, or maybe the one after that, I'm going to have to go to the south of France. I basically just want to go to wherever I like drinking wine, so that it gives me a really nice excuse to just drink those wines whilst I'm researching the book, as a way of escape. Because that's what it should be all about, really, shouldn't it? It's just a really lovely thing to do, and takes you out of yourself for a bit. So, but that is, I love that wine. That's great.
I'm super proud of you, because this is just incredible that you've sort of just given birth to books as well as your amazing other career and helping people. I think it's quite an interesting thing, you know, this sort of concept that people are sort of flummoxed or scared of wine, and I think it's really important. I mean, you know, we've tried really hard to communicate lots, you know, about what we do, about how it's made, about, you know, about our life. Because we found, you know, and I could really relate to that because I was just, you know, just a completely normal consumer before I got sort of sucked up by this big adventure. And it's such a nice thing to be able to give that, to say, you know, to people, to say, just, you know, just relax about it, because you know, I find it so sad when people try and sort of shroud this thing in some sort of mystery and snobbery, and it's gonna actually, especially I guess for the younger generation, you know, they're really just not going to tolerate that, because they don't want that. They want, you know, they want transparency, and they want to understand why they do what they do. And I think it's so important that in wine, you know, we get good at communicating and making people part of our journey, I guess.
Yeah, no, definitely. And as somebody's just said, the wine house can be really daunting when you're looking at that world of that wall of wine. What I was talking about earlier, the reason I started the blog, is when you're looking at all of those wines, it can sometimes be really difficult to know where to go, what to pick, which is why it's great if you've got a brand that you know and trust, and you spot it. You know you're not going to get it wrong, and that is, you know, that's a really important thing to do. But what I really want to ask you about, I'm so excited, because you've got a new wine coming out soon, have you not?
You mean the wine from the farm?
Yes.
Yes, but that is going to be, well, down to last year's natural disaster where we lost 80% of our harvest. That is going to be a teeny production. So,
but the exciting thing is, it's Domaine Mirabeau, isn't it?
It is. It's a single estate wine as such, and we've literally, you know, we've made it. Just, we're going to make a few thousand bottles, 3,000 bottles, which is really not very much for the whole world. But what's lovely about that is, apart from the fact that it's in a really amazing place, which is the Massif des Morts, which is just before you get basically to the coast on the way to Saint-Tropez. We're sort of on the left. And it's got incredible soils, because we're in schist soils, lots of stuff that just washed off that big mountain range there. So they're very poor soils. So our vines have to really fight for a living, basically. But we have actually also, we're converting to organic, and we're also starting on a big journey, which is, you know, Stephen's been incredibly involved in that, of regenerative agriculture, which means we're basically trying to preserve as much biodiversity as we can, and we plant cover crops between the vines. So it's very rarely seen here in Provence, and in fact, we wonder whether we'll get kicked out of the appellation here, because actually you're meant to keep your vineyard pristine and weed it and not have other plants grow near your vineyard. And we sort of have decided that that's...
And yours is a lovely big organic mess.
It's really quite a messy vineyard, I'm afraid. And
that's great though. Maybe everyone on here gets first dibs on the release when it comes out, because it sounds like there's not very much about. I really hope I get to try it, because I think that's a great next step in your adventure, that you've got your own domain now, and that's all part of, you know, what happens next at Mirabeau, as well as, you know, when we can, people can come and stay with you as well, which is so on my list of things to do. I can't wait.
Yeah, so we've got a couple of houses that people can rent, and it's a really, we've got lots of work to do also on, you know, welcoming people in a better way, because it's a farm, you know, it's not like Brad and Angelina's chateau. It's a proper farm, but we love it, and we've got a little zoo of animals now, because we're going to try and make our own organic compost for the vineyard, and lots of little projects like that. So it's quite fun. But should we take some people's questions, Helen? I don't know if Natalie's been kind enough to gather those.
If there are any, throw them out. I'm just
so there are a couple. So there was one asking how many grape varieties are grown. Is it just the main Grenache, Syrah, Cinsault, and this special hybrid variety?
Now there's a few more, and some of them are so random I can't even name them. But there's Carignan Tiburon, which you would probably know, Helen, because there's a few, especially Gondol way, that's grown much more commonly. But really the vast majority will be Grenache, Sanso, Syrah, because they grow really well here. And people, unfortunately, I mean, I think there are some small growers here who really push some of the older varieties, and that's really lovely. And if you ever get hold of a wine like that, please buy it. It'll cost you probably quite a lot more because these old vines are, don't yield much. And therefore, somebody has to make a living from it. But yeah, there's the three big ones that I will have mentioned make up the bulk of what's grown here.
Yeah. You also have some roll or Vermentino down there as well, don't you? So I love Vermentino, but it's not easy to always find. And very often grapes go under different names depending on where they're grown. And so where you are, Vermentino is called roll, isn't it? But it normally gets thrown into a blend rather than being like on its own. So yeah, make a nice Vermentino.
There's not much white. We can blend up to 10% of roll into ours, and actually the estate wine has some roll in it.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Lovely.
Because it's a bit of a field blend, I'm afraid, but yeah, it's no, it's a really, really nice white grape, but again, you'd probably have to seek it out because there's just 90% of the vineyard of Provence, the big vineyard, is rosé, is red grapes. So
I can see another question. Somebody's just said, which of the Mirabeau range would I take a case of to a desert island to enjoy? Well, that's quite hard. I think it would be between, funnily enough, it would be between the classic just for sentimental reasons, because now I know that story. I mean, that's just lovely. But I do love Pure. I mean, I could drink that for breakfast.
I'll give you 2 cases. How about that?
If I can have both, yeah, exactly. I can have both. That would be it. But
I just saw a question popping up what the estate wine's called, and it's going to be called La Réserve. So like the reserve, because actually we're in the middle of this amazing nature reserve, and one of the reasons why we've embarked on the regenerative agriculture, and I'm going to put a tape over Stephen's mouth because he drones on about it endlessly, is because we are in the middle of one of the most sensitive biodiversity places on earth, probably. So yeah, so that's why when we took it over, we said we can't just do business as usual here. It's just not possible. We've got sort of turtles walking across our land, and snakes and endless kind of creatures, and we must respect their habitat as well as grow wine, because actually, if you do it well, you should be able to do both.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's quite right. Are there any other questions? Have we hopefully we've answered everyone's.
There was one.
Helen, are you on this weekend then?
Sorry, say again, Jeany.
Are you on TV this weekend?
Yeah, I'm on Saturday. I have lots of wines here. They're just here, actually, the ones that I've got on Saturday. I can't show them to you because I'm not allowed to, but there are some really lovely wines. There's a hidden gem from Italy, a white grape that you don't see very often, that has just launched in another supermarket here. So I've got one of those on. But it was funny because I remember I did choose this for Saturday Kitchen ages and ages ago. Yeah. And it was in the studio and I was at home, and when Matt Tebbett walked onto the studio, he said, "Have you been in my fridge?" So he said that does normally sit in his fridge, but as you say, it's such a crowd pleaser. It's such a great food wine. So it was I think from memory it went with crab cakes, I think.
I love crab cakes. Even though I must say I had a crab taco in the States a couple of years ago, and that slightly took the crown of the crab cake. But
yeah, but that's actually one good food tip with rosé is that someone taught me ages and ages ago. A French, funny enough, a winemaker in Provence said that actually pink food and pink wine, it's such an easy match. It does work, like crabs, prawns, salmon, anything like that, if the ingredients are right. So if I'm stumped, then yeah, just pink wine. But it's been really lovely. It's so nice to see you and to taste through your new babies is a real privilege. So thank you very much for asking me.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so grateful you came on, and I'm so grateful for all your advice and your tasting notes, and it's been just amazing. And thanks to everybody who's come to join us today. You know, we're always here, always the doors are always open here. You know, we're on all the social media platforms more or less. So just send us a message or contact us any which way by email, and we're always super happy to respond to any of your questions. And we hope you're having a really wonderful time next week when you get to go out to pubs and
Oh my gosh,
be
we're gonna
normal
be
people
so
again.
jealous
And
here.
we're so jealous and happy for
Oh.
you at the same time. So
Oh,
So
well, you'll get a bit of a shock when we all turn up together.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, I hope people come down this way as well when the panic down here is over. So we're certainly ready to have people back.
So Jeany, sorry to interrupt. There's another couple of other questions that have literally just snuck in. If you're happy to just answer a couple more. There's one that just asks, I would like to know what inspired you to also make a gin.
Well, that is really almost too long a story for the session, but we had sort of lots of things. No, stop it. We had lots of things sort of come together and conspire, and obviously, you know, Stephen's British, and you know, we love gin and we love rosé, and so we decided to throw it all in a pot and make a Provençal rosé colored gin that basically makes you feel like you're in a walk in, you know, by the seaside in Monton, smelling the lemons, looking out to the sea and the herbs, and that's how it all came together. So
the lovely thing is about your gin that a lot of the pink gin that's available now does have added sugar, and yours doesn't. And I think that is a really, you know, it's a great thing to know. Just like your wines, it is bone dry, so you really are just getting all the flavors of the botanicals and the big hit of generous measure of alcohol, and there's no added sugar, so there's no nasties in it. So it's, again, it's practically a health drink. Come on.
It is practically healthy. But the other interesting factoid about the gin is it's made from grapes.
It's made from grapes, yes.
Exactly. Yeah. It's got a real smoothness to it. And obviously that's the connection with us, because, you know, our wine is also made from grapes.
Funny that.
This one makes good use of grape waste, it has to be said, because it's obviously made from the, you know, from the skins of grapes that have already made wine. So it's a little factoid that it is a recycled product effectively, which is quite nice. So.
But somebody actually saed the other day that it smells so good they could actually imagine putting on as perfume. And
I think that was me.
Was it you?
No, do you remember? I said to you, I really want Jeany to do a perfume, because I love rose as a
like gin.
Stab on the gin now. Nobody, the sad thing is nobody would notice any different with me. It's just like, you know.
Sorry, what tonic would we recommend? Yeah, there's the great debates about tonic in this house. I love the aromatic tonic, but I know it's not that easy to buy. The Mediterranean tonic is lovely with it.
Well, the Fever Tree.
Yeah.
So my favorite is Fever Tree Mediterranean Light, because I think that one of all of them lets the gin come through. Like, you know, some of the others, you know, of the other flavored tonics of all of them can be quite strong. Although my guilty pleasure, there's a cucumber tonic now, which I thought I was going to hate, and it's gorgeous. Terrible, I know.
Oh no, it's a Fever Tree. That's another Fever Tree one.
Yeah, it's a Fever Tree one. Cucumber tonic. I looked at it and I thought no, because I don't like when they put cucumber in water. I'm forever picking it out. And then I tried a gin with the cucumber tonic, and actually it was really delicious. So,
Is that new one?
Any others, Natalie?
Somebody's asking if we would make a vodka one day.
I don't know. You know, I guess a gin came so obvious because we had the grape element, and I know you can make grape-based vodkas, but I guess the botanicals and gins are so nice. I mean, gin is just a vodka with botanicals, if you see what I mean.
Yeah. But actually, if you were to make a vodka, because I think the difference with vodkas really comes down to their purity and their smoothness. So if you can get that from grape spirit, I think the answer is yes, you can make a vodka.
Of course.
Well
We'll
done.
make you ask us, we'll make some other fun things. I can't tell you what, but there's fun things coming.
Yeah.
So,
Brilliant. Okay.
great. It was so lovely to see you all. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Yeah,
And
thanks everybody for coming.
big
Just
bisous,
brilliant.
look after yourself, and yeah, and party hard next week, everyone.
Okay. Lots of
Thank you.
love. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Bye. Cheers.